Hi, this is Community Collab 360. I am Vanessa Crowley, and I am editor of the North Bay Review. I am here today with Dan Griffey, and I hear that you are running for representative for the 35th District, and there's no one running against you. So let's get to lucky you.
It's easier.
Yeah. So let's get to know you a little bit, and why exactly are you running?
Well, I mean, I think we got to go back to this place where we live, the town of Allen. I grew up here. I spent most of my 53 years here. My parents taught me how important it was to give back to the community that I belong to. So the second I could, I got involved in everything. I've been to almost every Allen Days, unless I was over at my grandparents' house for the summer. I was at Allen Days, but I grew up in this town. I like to say I'm a little bit Tom Sawyer, a little bit Huck Finn, but this town, when I remember it, as a kid, 70s and 80s, everybody in the town knew me. Everybody in the town could punish me. And I was a typical Gen Xer. If the sun was out, I was kicked out of the house and said, come back by dinner time. That really happened, but I got to see this place, and I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. That's actually one of the things that I really enjoyed during COVID. Is that I live here as well, and I have young kids, and I remember them riding their bikes to the lake and down to the Allen store and grabbing an ice cream cone, and it just was so nostalgic of me as a child that I feel like this next generation doesn't really have that a lot. And so I think that this community kind of just has that nice little community feel where everyone kind of watches each other's back, and kids can go ride their bikes around the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned COVID. I mean, COVID was terrible on all accounts, and we're seeing in the national news that the federal government probably covered up a lot of the interpersonal communication, right? That good, hard decision making that a great republic is kind of charged to do. Mm-hmm. You don't lose that when you have a dedicated community, a community where you can be. And that's why I'm so proud of what we have in this town. My dad was a port commissioner back in the 70s, and he used to tell me stories about he had this big grandiose idea where we're going to build this park for a memorial to give to the community so it'll always be there. And he was so excited about it, and he got me as this little kid excited about it. And he'd come home from the port meetings and he would tell me how it's going. Oh, we're close. Oh no, we had a setback. Oh, we're close. And then he'd come home one day and he says, we closed on the property that is going to be a park. Now, me and all the kids, we would play in that park because it had 30-foot, 40-foot tall evergreen blackberries and knotweed, and we made forts and that stuff, and we tunneled in there and made all kinds of pathways and all that stuff, but it was neat to cut it all down. I loved the idea we're going to buy it, and I was so excited. And then my dad the next weekend bought me a pair of clippers, some gloves, and a shovel.
Naturally.
And then that's what we did. We built the park, and I'm so proud of my mom and dad for teaching me that ideal. Like, if you want something from your community or for your community, don't wait for somebody else to do it. You can do it. So my dad proved that to me. I'm very proud of the park that we see now, that dock structure and a place where we can rent for weddings and unfortunately sometimes funerals, but we have a place for the community to get together. And we can reject all of those terrible lessons we learned during COVID of staying in the house and not talking to anybody. No, we're going to go enjoy that park, and I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Like you said, there's so much to be said about a community feeling, and I think that kind of brings people together for sure. Kind of COVID locked us all away from each other, and I think that we're all kind of coming out of that finally. I think it took us some time, but I feel like the community feel and values is definitely there now.
Yeah.
Sounds like your dad had a pretty big vision, and what kind of vision do you have for the future for this community?
Oh, I have all kinds of, I've been very active. The dock has fallen into a little bit of disrepair. I know that you live here, so you know. Mm-hmm. Me and my seatmate, Travis Couture, we're dedicated to making sure those assets don't go away. Those neat resources that we have, those places to recreate and to get out on the water. So we went out and we got a capital budget member request from the legislature to help the port rebuild the dock and and bring it back up to where it's not so much in disrepair.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to see for the community is what I want to see for the entire 35th district. I want to see government out of their business, a lot of respect for private property and the fact that private properties actually have ownership and should have most of the say. Limit the say that government should have. Work on our tax structure. I understand that right now I'm feeling it, right? The dollar doesn't go near as far as it used to go.
That's for sure.
So in those areas where the government is imposing more taxes on the residents of this town and the greater 35th district, I'd like to see us turn that around a bit and respect the fact that people are having a hard time buying goods and services. The other thing is making sure that the community safety around here is a predictable thing. All too often in Washington State, I think the majority has put us on the wrong footing when it comes to public safety. And I think I want to see a place where, maybe we can get back to a little bit of what I talked about in the 70s, where everybody knew everyone's name. We didn't need to lock our doors in this town, and by goodness, we store our keys in the ignition, because if you don't, you might lose them, right?
Yeah.
That would be neat if we could get back there. But if we all want it, it's up to us to go get it. And it's my dream, my drive, my goal. I know both my seatmates, Travis and Drew, they share the same dreams and goals to more empower the people here to be masters of their own lives and keep government kind of this, behind the scenes sort of thing that helps out with the rest. And all too often the government's too in your face, especially when you go out and
go figure.
Yeah, especially when you get your tax statement, right? And when we're talking about inflation and all those things, I think government needs to share in those painful problems that the constituents have here. But I guess if you want to know physically what I'd like to see walkable sidewalks here. I'd like to see a working wastewater collection system, not necessarily a treated system. I'm not talking about the sewer, but right now DOT will even admit that the Highway 3 drainage is problematic. We still have old wooden culverts and pipes that are carrying those waters out a couple times now. Those culverts have failed and caused a lot of damage to the private property, and I'd like to see us kind of once and for all get on top of that, create some settlement ponds for that, so also the runoff that goes into the bay is a clean runoff. That way we can fully enjoy this great little place that we both live in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it sounds like you have some big visions and a lot on your shoulders. Given all of that, what do you do to decompress? What do you do in your personal life to stay grounded? What do you enjoy as a person?
Well, neat. I just completed a 32-year professional firefighter career 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I retired 2 years ago. It gives me a heck of yes, thank you. It's so nice.
Thank you for your service. I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It goes back to, like I said, the beginning of this conversation. My family taught me that it was an obligation to give back as much as possible. And there was a volunteer fire station right down the road, and there wasn't a lot to do for a teenager, right? As a kid, the Tom Sawyer Huck Finn thing, that was easy. When you get older, there's not a lot to do in this town. But we had a full service gas station. I went to work there, and
sounds like you've been serving the community for quite some time.
Yeah, well, I mean, and what I like to do in my retirement is, I grew up also as a mechanic. My family owned an auto mechanic, and auto towing business, and I'm really mechanic savvy, and I like taking old vehicles and fixing them up. So I do a lot of that. I love camping. I love hiking. Just experiencing outside. I guess going back to what my parents taught me: if it's sunny, you should be outside, not inside with the air conditioning.
Yeah.
I just do, I just try to be happy, and my family's very heavily involved in the Pee Wee football, trying to make sure that those activities for our kids, our youth, are going to be there. My boy Will plays football, and so every night at 5:30 we'll leave and we'll be up at the North Mason High School practicing football for 2 hours. Get to talk to everybody, all of the Pee Wee parents students and interact with them. So it's just fun and exciting for me, and it just is community, and I love it. And we see, signs of community kind of faltering and falling off, and not as important to as many people. But if I can, through my leisure activities or through my outreach activities or my legislative activities, if I can encourage people to re-embrace community and think about community before they think about, they don't need to think about government. Think about your community and what your community wants to look like. We can make it that way.
Start small. Yeah. Start here at home.
Stay here.
We're, fostering those good community values. Yeah. What you're saying about the football kind of just reminds me of the Friday night lights. And I feel like that is something that I really appreciated when I was in high school. I went to school on Orcas Island, actually. And we had, 50 people in my graduating class. And so it was just kind of one of those things where everyone went to the football game on Friday night. The whole town, the whole community did. So
I did. Really nice. I did. That's where you would find my family.
Bring it back to the small town values. I really appreciate that.
As a kid, we would play catch right up almost against the field. There was nothing that separated us from the high school football players, and we looked up to them when they run on the field, and they would toss the ball around with us, and we'd be running around mimicking what they did. It just wholesome, neat stuff that, again, we don't do enough of because, we have computers and our kids are playing video games. I wish we could throw all those away and go back to them actually running around outside and enjoying life.
You and me both, and I think that those are some of my biggest memories of childhood is being around other people and being in sports and learning how to work together as a team. That's something that I think that people really need to know, how to work together for a common goal, right?
All too often now our kiddos aren't given enough resilience. They are, now an A is between 100% and 80%, right? When I was in school, 80% would have been a really low B, right? We make excuses for the things that they do wrong instead of guiding them to do better. We need to get back to high expectations will give high performance. High performance will then develop into traits in their life that will make them more valuable in the workforce, more robust lifestyle with a lot of resiliency built in. I like to see that. That's another vision I have, is we need to get back to kind of some basics again when we educate and mentor our youth.
Yeah, I do think that there is something valuable as a person, though. I was, I loved school. I was very studious. And so for me, if I got a B, it was very disappointing. I was disappointed in myself, and it made me strive to be better. Yeah. So if everyone's getting an A, what's the point? Why are we trying harder? Why are we striving to be better if it doesn't matter what our efforts are, right? Yeah. So we always are just constantly trying to be better people and improving ourselves. On that note, what if you had one piece of advice to give to the next generation? What would it be?
Work hard and you can be anything you want to be.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I mean it. This country is still a place where it's harder than it was when I was younger for that to happen, But if you covet somebody's knowledge set, you just got to go get it. You could Google it now. I mean, it's not as hard as it used to be. If you look up to someone in your life and you want what they have and what they're doing, then go do it. It is that easy.
It really is.
It is really that easy. Now, the process of getting there and accomplishing your goals, there might be a lot of stumbles and falls along the way. But get yourself back up, dust yourself off, and go.
Try again.
Yeah.
Try again.
All too often now, you see when our youth fail once, then they give up, right? We need, as this generation, all generations, need to give back that work ethic, that sense, and if they get that sense, that understanding, and are able to experience the self-actualization you get when you go from an 80% to 100%, go from a low B to an A+. Wow, that becomes addicting, right? And that's the kind of addiction we want our kids to be permanently afflicted with, right? We want them to be addicted to strive to be better for themselves and others.
And that is one thing that builds confidence too. I mean, when you can conquer something that you've been struggling with personally, whether it's grades or whether it's, sports or just on a personal level, when you are trying and striving for something and you actually accomplish it, like, wow, that just builds the confidence that this generation needs.
Yeah, and it's the step we're missing, right? All too often, an adult will tell somebody, "Oh, sorry," and give them a big hug, and then let them not do it anymore. Now, what my parents did is they would still say, "Sorry, give me a hug. Now go, do it again.
Try again."
That's the step, right? And if we could get everyone, all adults, to understand that it doesn't hurt them to do that step, right? All too often, right now on Olympia, with the majority party. They think that step hurts them, that telling them to do it again. Now, putting people in a pressure spot and make them sweat a little bit and figure it out only makes them grow as a human. And it's necessary. And sadly, it doesn't happen very often. But hey, people watching this, maybe they'll redouble their efforts.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys got to learn a little bit more about Dan Griffey and who he is as a person and what he's going to do about the community. So thank you for joining us, and make sure you like and subscribe and hit that little bell.
Thank you.
風を集めて